Yes. So generally said, to configure availability group, we have summarized that we need what Windows cluster is required. Means the machines where SQL is running, these machines must be there in what Windows cluster. Machines must be in what Windows cluster. We have okay, and the machine should may be there in same cluster or different region cluster also. Okay, same or different region cluster also we have. Okay, okay. Uh, yeah. Next we'll say like we'll see the what are the prerequisite terms we have seen, key terms we have discussed actually. Primary replica, secondary replica, some key terms we have discussed. Okay, right, right. Okay. Next, we'll see what are the prerequisites are there to configure always on. But before that, we'll see the architecture. We'll see same the synchronous and asynchronous mode options are there. Two options are available for us. Availability modes here means one is what synchronous mode is there, and second one is asynchronous mode. Two options are there. Same two options. Okay, okay. Check it like in case of synchronous mode, we have discussed in case of synchronous mode, we have seen once the request is submitted, first those are written into primary buffer cache, then into log file. Immediately changes are delivered to secondary server database. It also writes those changes in what secondary database log file. Once written into secondary, yeah, this is secondary buffer cache actually. Once written into secondary database log file, it is sending the acknowledgement back to primary. Now primary is responding to the user's application, right? Yes, this is a we have seen. Okay, so we have discussed actually like in case of synchronous mode, that is common. In case of what? Always on. Mirroring also same, right? So whereas in case of asynchronous mode, this is safety full mode. Whereas in asynchronous mode, we have seen whenever the query is submitted, SQL Server will write the changes into buffer cache. So then log will immediately user will get acknowledgement, right? Yes. Once the user gets acknowledgement, then what is happening? Then after some time, primary replica will submit the changes to secondary replica. That's what here in case of asynchronous mode, we have seen there is no automatic failover. Only in synchronous mode only we have automatic failover. Okay, yes. Here one more point we have to check here. In case of always on, remember, no need of witness server. No need of witness server. See. Okay, yes. So that's like witness server is not there here in case of always on. So we have to, why? Because our Windows cluster is there, right? Platform is Windows cluster here where our machines are there. SQL machines are there as nodes actually, node 1, node 2. That Windows in Windows cluster one service is there, cluster service. That cluster service will take the request actually. Okay, right. Okay, what are the prerequisites are there set to configure algorithm? Each replica should be on Windows Server, at least 2008 or any higher version Windows Server. Each replica means what? each machine where OS, where we have SQL is there. Each machine where our SQL is running. SQL Server 2012 Enterprise or higher NE versions, different NE edition later, yeah, 2014, 16, 17, 19. Okay, but already we have discussed in 2016, always on mirroring is deprecated, right? In 2016. Yes. So that's what I like here. Uh, but that is the reason today, like Microsoft is recommending your best practice, you go with always. That's it, best practice. Okay? Don't go with mirroring today, use always on. Why? Because it is mirroring with additional features. Okay. Like generally remember in 2012, 2014, only enterprise edition, only enterprise edition supports always on. But remember from 2016 onward, years, even standard edition also supports always on. Why? Because uh, mirroring is deprecated here, right? Mirroring is removed in 2016. Suppose if already mirroring setup is there in 14 or 12, you want to migrate that server to 16. To support that, here we have here, yeah, even like standard edition also supports here always on. But here always on means like not, yeah, we have generally basic availability group is there here. Only it supports basic availability group. Basic availability group means, remember, which is similar to mirroring, which is one-to-one option in basic availability group. Okay, so whereas like in general, like our standard availability groups are there, which is yeah, always on actually, which is one-to-many feature. In standard edition also, he's saying always on is supported. But why we have to go with enterprise edition? He is asking. We have to discuss that it supports only basic availability group. Means what? Which is similar to mirroring, which is one-to-one feature. In standard edition, always on we can configure, which is one-to-one feature, not one-to-many feature. Okay, in basic availability group, we can configure. Okay. Next, like each SQL Server instance should be on different node. Okay, so that's why remember, like we have seen in previously, like by taking two instances of same machine, we have configured mirroring, right? By taking two instances of same machine. But remember here compulsory to configure always on, we need separate machines are required. Okay, separate machine with the yeah SQL instance in each machine. Okay, so in SQL instance means, remember, if SQL standard instance may be there or SQL clustered instance may be there. Directly in SQL standard instance itself we can configure. Each SQL Server instance should be on different node, different machine actually. All SQL Server instances in availability group must be on same collation. Same collation settings are there. Collations we have long wait settings actually with the same long wait settings. By default, we have it will take US English actually. All SQL Server instances in an availability group should have the availability group feature enabled. See, okay. So by default, remember, like this availability group feature is in disabled mode. So first, said before starting configuration, we have to enable first. After enabling, then only we can yeah, start configuration, always on configuration. Means like we can go to SQL Server configuration manager here, but in configuration manager, uh, yeah, we can configure this. We can enable here always on availability group option feature. We can enable by using what configuration manager. The collation settings, we have seen language settings, which language character should be uh, accepted. By default, it is what US English. Okay, it's recommended to use a single SQL Server service account for all SQL Server instances here, which are participating in availability. This means what instance one is there in node one. Okay, in node two, instance two is there. Both the instances must be running the same with which account, domain account. And once again, same account. For example, let's say my domain name is there, like Optimize SQL, Optimize SQL / SQL1. Both the servers, both the SQL instances must be running with what? Same domain account. Okay, okay, then let's say like database must be in full recovery model here, compulsory. Why? Because already we know mirroring works in full recovery model only. That's why databases must be in what? Full recovery model. Okay, so each availability group replica should have the same drive letters. Generally, as a best practice, not compulsory, best practice here. Yeah, in C, in node A replica one, we have CDE drives. Node B also CDE, like the same drive letters. Why? Because whenever we add extra file to primary database, okay, same file should be added here, right, automatically. That's why to yeah, follow those conditions, it should be same. This thing means drives must be same. Right. This is a very basic prerequisites on this to start always on configuration. First, what I will do to configure always on, we have seen just now, Windows cluster is compulsory. I will check here whether Windows cluster is working fine or not. Then I will take one instance from node 1, means server 1, one instance from node 2, means server 2, for example. So then I will start configuration, always on configuration. Okay, right. These are, see, what are the availability modes are there? Two availability modes we have seen, synchronous and asynchronous, which is similar to like our mirroring. And these are the prerequisites we have discussed here. Right.